We begin the day with an important and terrifying update on the severe and ever-increasing cognitive decline of the President of the United States, the same president that we're stuck with for the next 3 years. Bad polling notwithstanding, a new interview with Trump and MAGA Fox Business host Maria Bartiromo just dropped this morning, and Trump has a scary cognitive episode throughout the course of that interview that we have to talk about. This man is unfit for the presidency, spiritually, psychologically, and mentally. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, a hoarse, sweaty Donald Trump is losing track of time. He is misunderstanding linear time. He's visibly confused about major events of his presidency and also his second presidency as well, starting with this.
Well, look what happens to Justice Ginsburg. She was not exactly a young woman. The election was taken. They had a Democrat who could have appointed a liberal justice, and the liberals do stick together. There's one thing about those justices. They stick together like glue, not like the Republicans. But she decided that she was going to live forever, and about 2 minutes after the election, she went out, and I got to appoint somebody. So, you know, you make the case that at a certain time, you give it up so that you can have a justice. You know, the average is like 40 years. It's a long time. So that your ideology, your policies, your everything would be of the kind that we like. But it's probably not easy to give up for people, you know. They reach a certain age. Ginsburg could not do it. And she really hurt herself within the Democrat Party. People are very angry at her because I got to appoint people instead of Biden.
So a couple of things here. Trump has the timeline all screwed up. Justice Ginsburg died in 2020, Donald Trump's last year in office, not just a few seconds after the election, years after he won the presidency. Number one, he has apparently forgotten all about that. He has no conception of linear time. He has no idea of a major event. Justice Ginsburg's death in the final year of the Trump administration was a massive seismic event that changed Trump's administration and American politics because it meant that Trump and his Republican allies in the Senate were able to cram through a third appointee. Okay, number one. Number two, even when President Obama was in office before Trump, he had to deal with a Republican Senate. That's why when Justice Scalia died in the final year of Obama's presidency, again, Trump's Republican allies in the Senate, led by Mitch McConnell, blocked President Obama from having a confirmation hearing, right? They wouldn't even give Merrick Garland, Biden or Obama's nominee, a hearing because they understood that he was so well respected that he probably would have made it even out of a Republican Senate. So to forestall that, they wouldn't even give the guy a hearing. It was an unimaginable breach of the constitutional obligation to fill Supreme Court vacancies. But it wasn't Biden, it was Obama. And Obama had to deal with a Republican Senate that cock-blocked him, which is how we got Justice Gorsuch in the first place. Biden didn't come in until after Trump. And Ginsburg died in Trump's final year. He has no understanding of time. None. And it manifests itself later on in the interview in another, again, cognitive episode here. As Midas Touch notes, he can't even remember his own presidency. Yikes. The man is gone, demented, senile. Why we tolerate this, I will never know. The latest in the annals of, quote, who was president in 2020 discourse. Ginsburg died in September 2020, and Trump rushed to replace her with Barrett before he lost the election. He seems to be referring to Ginsburg declining to retire under Obama several years earlier. Again, but he said Biden, who came after Trump. Batshit crazy. Trump's recent disintegration is the perfect cure for that, quote, third-term nonsense. The dementia symptoms are accelerating. His frontal lobe is a desolate wasteland, and his memory is crashing. Good to know the nuclear football is nearby. The entire political media would call to 25th Biden for this, referring to the 25th Amendment, which allows the vice president and the cabinet to remove the president from power. I know this is becoming a daily refrain, but what if Biden was this confused publicly about the timeline of something that occurred during his presidency? Chris Harris says, People are not exaggerating when they question the mental health and intelligence of Donald Trump. Here you can see Donnie forget that he was president when Ginsburg passed on. And so on and so forth. I mean, just people are rightly raking him over the coals. Joe from Jers, he's talking about Alito. He's going to retire so that Trump can put that asshole cannon on, or fucking Ted Cruz. Now, before we move on to the next clip, just to kind of close the loop on this particular clip, as you know, I complain a lot about the Supreme Court here at Pondering Politics. They're referring to recent reports that Justice Samuel Alito, who is an arch conservative, and he has become more far right as time has gone on, appointed by President Bush, not by Trump, but you wouldn't know that because Clarence Thomas and Justice Alito are even more loyal to Trump's MAGA agenda than Trump's own MAGA appointees, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. But Alito is in his 70s and is reportedly considering a strategic retirement, especially because the Senate is increasingly in play. The odds of Democrats retaking the Senate are increasing with each passing day. I would still say they're not favored to do so, but there's some evidence to the contrary, like Kalshi and Polymarket, the betting market, suggests that actually Democrats are favored to keep or to swing the Senate, and hopefully they are correct. But Thomas and Alito, who are partisan hacks in the worst possible way and give Trump everything he wants, they may strategically retire so that Trump can appoint 2 more Supreme Court justices if and when Democrats are able to take the Senate, so that right before Democrats retake the Senate, he'll have 2 more appointees under a Republican Senate. And I have to stress this before we move on to the next clip. Sorry to beat this dead horse. The Supreme Court matters. The Supreme Court alone is worth getting off your ass and going to vote for Democrats. Now, I'm not a candidate for office, so I can speak to the American voter that way because I'm one of you. I'm just simply an American voter. The Supreme Court stays with us for decades and generations. We have 9 Supreme Court justices. 3 of them were appointed by Trump. We have a 6-3 conservative supermajority when you combine it with the 3 other conservative justices appointed by previous Republican presidents. If Thomas retires or Alito retires or both retire and Trump is able to fill those vacancies, we would not only have a 6-3 conservative supermajority, we would have a MAGA majority court because Trump would appoint young, deranged lunatics. Some people are actually even suggesting that he appoint Ted Cruz or Mike Lee, 2 Republican senators who are also insane, batshit, unprincipled losers. But he might also appoint Aileen Cannon, the judge he appointed, that he nominated to the bench, who presided over his classified documents case and tossed it. A woman so partisan, so hackish that the conservative circuit court above her had to publicly rebuke her for how she handled Trump's classified documents case. He might make her a Supreme Court justice. The only way to prevent that is to put Democrats in power, not just in terms of the White House and the House, but also the Senate, and keep them there so they can cockblock any of Trump's nominees. And any Democratic majority Senate better commit publicly that they will not give Donald Trump a nominee. You don't get one. We're going to do to you what Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans did to Barack Obama. We're going to keep these seats open if they happen during the final 2 years of your term, and we're going to wait for a Democrat because fuck you. You did it to us. We're going to do it to you. Now, having said all of that, let's move on to the next clip again of Trump misunderstanding linear time, visibly confused.
But I hate to be controversial. You know, I want to be uncontroversial. But
and you think Kevin Warsh can get confirmed? You think Tom Tillis is going to give you a vote?
Well, we're going to have to find out. He might not, but that's why Tom Tillis is no longer a senator.
Okay. On the AI
Tom Tillis is no longer a senator, right?
Well, he's on his way out.
Well, no, he quit, but he quit. And I think he doesn't want the legacy of stopping a person who could be great. I think Kevin Warsh is going to be great.
Guys, that was so bad that, again, MAGA Fox Business host Maria Bartiromo is so stunned by what Trump just said, his visible confusion. Her eyes widen. She puts her hand to her mouth. She wants to move on. She wants to cover Trump's ass, but he presses the issue and makes the mistake of asking her, and she has to correct him. Tom Tillis has not quit. Tom Tillis is my senator. I live in North Carolina. He is the Republican senator from North Carolina, representing North Carolina in the United States Senate. He will remain in power and remain in office until January 2027. He has not left office, and he has repeatedly vowed for the remainder of his term, if there continues to be an investigation into Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, that he will block any of Trump's nominees to the Federal Reserve. And he can single-handedly do so because he's on the committee of jurisdiction. He can single-handedly prevent Trump from replacing Jerome Powell. And by the way, with respect to firing Jerome Powell, the Supreme Court seems inclined, at least so far, to prevent Trump from doing that because they're worried about, the effects on monetary policy. They don't want to give any president, including a Democrat, the ability to just unilaterally fire Federal Reserve members. Doesn't make much sense constitutionally in terms of if you're going to give Trump the power to fire anybody else, which the Supreme Court wants to do, why you're going to give a special carve-out for the Federal Reserve? Because it's not about legal principle or originalism. It's about prudence. They recognize it would be incredibly foolish and dangerous, so they're trying to carve out this one singular exception. But the point is, Tom Tillis is in office. He's off. That's why he's no longer a senator. He is a senator. That's why he quit. No, he announced that he will not seek re-election, but he has not officially resigned. He's still in power and will remain in power for the next, 9 months? You're going to have to deal with him. And Jerome Powell's term is up as Federal Reserve Chair in May. But he doesn't have to resign from the board. He just no longer chairman of the Federal Reserve and just then goes back to being a regular governor on the board of the Federal Reserve. And again, Maria Bartiromo is shocked how Donald Trump doesn't understand linear time. There are other clips I could provide, but the point is this. I mean, he complains about windmills at one point when she brings up the British economy. He's like, they got to stop with the windmills. Donald Trump had a cognitive episode on our screens, in front of our faces, in front of Maria Bartiromo. She is shocked by what she sees. His total inability to grasp linear time. Again, people pointing this out. The president can't fire the Fed chair, but Trump keeps trying to intimidate and remove Jerome Powell. Tillis is a senator until January 2027, and he lacks the authority to fire Powell. This is embarrassing. It's just, Donald Trump is a stupid person on the best of days, and he is far from the best of days. He's a malignant narcissist, an authoritarian, a sociopath. He has the worst psychological and mental qualities in a person. He is profoundly uncurious. He's profoundly selfish. And to top it all out, we're not even dealing with baseline Trump. We're dealing with a Trump in rapid cognitive decline, and we're stuck with him for the next 3 years, barring a successful impeachment, where he's removed from power, or the 25th Amendment being invoked. Stunning stuff. And the last thing I'll say is this. YouGov, 48% of Americans say that Trump is suffering modest or significant cognitive decline. More people than not. More people describe Trump as bold, dangerous, or corrupt than say he's honest, steady, or inspiring. We'll probably talk about this poll in subsequent detail. 48% of Americans say Trump is too old to be president, while 40% say he's not. So again, far more Americans believe he's too old to be president than not. 35% say he's suffering significant cognitive decline, while 13% say he's suffering modest cognitive decline, and 32% say he's not suffering from cognitive decline at all. But many more Americans believe that Trump is in a state of cognitive decline. Democrats and independents are more likely to say Trump is suffering significant cognitive decline than they are to say he's suffering significant physical decline. More Americans say Trump is suffering at least modest or cognitive or physical declines than say he's not. So the American people recognize this for what he is. He's stupid, he's too old, and he's in a severe state of cognitive decline, and we are stuck with him for the next 3 years. Shocking stuff. Just look at Maria Bartiromo's face. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.